Oh, there's Heather.
Apologies, my computer was being a little bit slow on the waking up there.
Well, welcome everyone to the Town of Manlius Zoom board meeting once again. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Allison, would you like to explain the format before I do the board introductions, or before we introduce ourselves?
Absolutely. We have a number of panelists in the room tonight, and our protocol is that we just ask that you turn off your video feed and mute your microphone until the supervisor calls on you, and then when he does, you can do that and join the conversation.
We won't forget about you. All right, and with that, we'll do our introductions. I will start out, and then we'll go alphabetically after me. Ed Theobald, Town Supervisor.
Sarah Bollinger, Town Councilor.
John Deere, Town Councilor.
Elaine Denton, Town Councilor.
Karen Green, Deputy Supervisor.
Caitlin Creasel, Town Councilor.
Heather Waters, Town Councilor.
Thank you, Board. And along with us tonight, our other town officials are Randy Capriati, Code Enforcement Officer. We have Chief Mike Kroll, Police Chief Mike Kroll. Highway Superintendent Rob Cushing. Town Attorney Tim Ferteski. Our Town Engineer Doug Miller. Town Manager Ann Oot. And of course, our Zoom Master Allison Weber, Town Clerk. Thank you, everyone. So before we get rolling along here, let's approve the minutes. We need a motion for July 22nd. Minutes.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 22nd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. And next we have the minutes from August 12th, and we need a motion on that as well.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 12th.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And of course, I recuse myself because I was not at that meeting. I think recuse is the right word, Tim. But it is carried. All right. Now we can move on to the public hearing. Before we get started, this is regarding the part-time special patrol officer for the Fayetteville Manlius School District.
Mr. Supervisor, it's Tim. Can I step in for 1 second? Because I did get a request earlier today. I just noticed it from John Lange. I know Greg Scromo has to leave a little early. Greg, what time do you have to get off the call?
Got a 7 o'clock meeting, and we kind of got it. We didn't just forget it. Planning board meeting starting at 7.
What time is that, Greg?
Got it.
So it was requested that they change the agenda, but it's up to the board, obviously, if we want to consider the Penizzato zone change first.
Well, board, what do you think? I mean, we've got the SPO, we got Penizzatos. I know we've had a lot of discussion on both.
Just based on feedback I've seen like the last 2 weeks, I think the Penizzato one should be fairly quick.
So are you suggesting, John, we put that in front of the SPO or not?
I'm not opposed to it if anyone else isn't.
I'm not opposed to it.
It was published for 6:40, so you still have 2 minutes to go.
Say that again, Allison.
was published for 6:40, so you still have 2
Oh.
minutes to go.
Did we approve the abstract?
Approve the what?
Abstract? Did we do that one?
Oh, we did. Thank you, Elaine.
You're welcome.
Oh, I crossed it off like we already did, but good catch there. Thank you. Yeah, let's we need a motion for the abstract.
So I'll make a motion to approve the abstract.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you for catching me on that one, Elaine. Yeah, if we're okay, we could certainly do a shift to the Penanzatos if you'd like to discuss the zone change there. Are we okay with that then? If Dr. Tice is all right with just waiting a few more minutes?
I think it will be moderately fast. I make a motion to waive the reading.
Before we open the public hearing, let's do seeker on this.
Okay.
Okay. The applicant has filled out part 1 of the short environmental assessment form. It's our responsibility to look at part 2 to determine whether or not the zone change will have a significant environmental impact.
Yep.
So I'm going to go through the 11 questions, and I have gone through it. My reading of it is no or small impact may occur on all the questions. If somebody has anything different, please speak up. But first, does anybody want to make a motion to declare ourselves the lead agency for seeker purposes?
I make a motion to declare Town of Manlius lead agency for seeker on the issue of the Enders Road zone change.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
If there's discussion, we'll have that in the public hearing. So opposed? Carried. Very good.
Okay, thank you. So the first question is, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? There are similar CA properties and CB properties in this neighborhood, so I would say the impact on that would be no to small. Anybody disagree? Will the proposed action result in a change in the use of intensity of the use of land? Again, it may change the use of land or the intensity, but we have similar CA properties in the vicinity. Does anybody have any objections to a no to small on that one?
No, you're accurate, Tim.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of an existing community? No to small. Will the proposed action impact the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure or mass transit, biking, or walkway? No to small. Again, speak up if anybody has a different opinion. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No to small. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies? No to small. Or public-private wastewater treatment utilities? No to small. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No to small. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater? There are none in this vicinity, so that's no to small. Will the proposed action result in an increase in potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No to small. And will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? And I think the answer to that is no to small also. Based on the answers to the 11 questions, I would recommend that the board issue a negative declaration under seeker, meaning that it will not have a significant environmental impact.
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to declare it a low to small to medium to nothing.
Negative declaration, is that?
Negative declaration, right, that one.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anything else, Tim?
We're in a position to open the public hearing.
Yeah, okay. Before we do, I just want to introduce John and Stella Pennanzato, who are the owners of the property, to come on board along with their attorney, John Lange, and their engineer, Greg Stromo. Very good. So again, this is to, we're jumping down here now. This is Pennanzato Real Estate Zone Change from RM to CA. I know that we've had presentations from the Pennanzatos, or John, maybe you would like to just give an overview of this again, and then we can open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Yes, some of the board members may recall a few meetings ago or a meeting ago, before the project was referred to the planning board, the Pennanzatos had submitted this application. It's all outlined in my letter of June 18, 2020. And as you know, this is a request for a reduced level of the prior request from commercial B to a commercial A zone. I know you're all very familiar with the property, so I won't belabor this, and hopefully we can get comments from the public. Greg is on the line, and I know he's going to have to get off soon, so I'll shut up in case Greg's needed.
Greg, do you have some input right now?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only, not really. We've got, I know that everybody was concerned about the things like suitability that were right in, right out. We had that previously approved during the process for the daycare center for New York State DOT. That's why we put the easement there. They made that as a request back in prior to daycare center improvement. So there's an easement there for that, and there's easement access property both ways. So I think the access easement.
Okay, are you all able to understand? I'm not able to.
Yeah, Greg, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
What I was saying was the issues are brought up by the planning board concerns relative to access. We had previously gotten approval from DOT as part of the original approvals for the daycare center. That's why the access easements are shown on the subdivision plan. So those were the main comments there. And other than that, I think any other real engineering issues.
You're talking about the access into the daycare center from Enders Road?
Both access points. There's also an access for right in, right out on 92, which was previously approved by your.
You said that was approved by the state right out on 92?
Right in or right out. That was the access to the daycare.
Sort of lost him there. John, is there anything you want to pick up where Greg has left off here a little bit? Or?
I think what Greg was saying is that some of the issues that were identified by the planning board had actually been resolved in that regard, but keeping in mind that the planning board was careful to say in their recommendation that they understand they'll get any actual application back in front of them, and I'm certain that those will be scrutinized at that time as well.
Gotcha. Okay. And which, by the way, the planning board did refer it back to us with, I guess, a positive recommendation, correct, Tim, along with the county. And of course, the county had an awful lot in their information that they sent back to us. But in both cases, it was the CA was recommended, correct? Or Tim, yeah.
Well, the planning board certainly recommended it.
Yeah.
The county planning board doesn't make recommendations in favor or oppose. They just, it's not going to have any countywide impact.
Yes, that's right. I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Okay, very good. All right, and I know the Penanzatos are there. We can open the public hearing unless either of you would like to make a statement, John or Stella, before we open it up.
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I will.
Supervisor, I'd make a motion to open the public hearing.
Oh, you made a motion to waive the reading of the public notice, but I don't think we voted on it, Sarah. So if you want to do that again.
All right, so I make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, now we'll open up the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, before we welcome any speakers, just as a reminder to everyone out there, what we're going to do as a board, and I know we've received numerous emails and letters from many different individuals that I don't think I saw anyone against it. I think everyone that we received was in favor of it. But I think what we'll do as a board is we're going to listen to any other comments anyone has to make. And then if we want to close the public hearing, that's up to the board, because our nature has been, since we've been doing Zooms, to extend it one more meeting in case there's other individuals that would like to also respond or have their public comments made. So with that, Allison, I know that you have received many emails that you've forwarded on to us. I don't see anybody in the Q&A. Anyone on Facebook or anything that has comments to make?
No, and the lag tonight is not too bad, so.
Okay. All right. So other than the fact that we all receive emails and letters, including from the Assemblyman Sturpey, a few others in favor of the zone change, if you feel that we want to close the public hearing, that's up to the board. If you want to make a motion to come out, or we can extend it. Any thoughts on that?
No, none of the attendees, Allison, have a comment regarding this topic?
No, that would be no. Okay.
All right. So I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Okay, so board, would you like to make some comments? We can, start with anyone who wants to step in and say anything before we vote on this.
Mr. Supervisor, before that, I just want to make, I need to explain one thing, and I don't know if Greg or John, one of the things that has come up with the planning board was they want to make sure that the access driveway to the daycare center, which the planning board wants also to be used for the CA lot number 1, I think, that it doesn't go from RM to CA. They'd rather it go from CA to RM because it's less, it'll be less of an intensity. So if it goes, so I have asked Greg and John if they would move the line over to include, and I can't remember, is it lot 1 or lot 2, John, that the daycare is on?
It's the current daycare, I believe, is lot 2.
Yes.
So it would move the line onto lot 2, or it would make that a split zone, partially CA and partially RM. So we don't run into problems in the future if somebody wants, if the planning board is saying you can't go from RM to CA for a driveway or for an entrance. This issue came up with the intermodal.
Yes. Yep.
And there was a large discussion about whether you can go from RA or have access to an industrial property from a lesser zone property or from a less intense zone property. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. Does anybody have any questions about that?
No, I'm glad you brought that up, Tim. I know you had mentioned that, and Penanzatos and John are okay with that.
Yes, and Greg sent the paperwork for that.
Could you run through it one more time? Sorry, I didn't catch it.
So the entrance, the egress and ingress for the daycare center is going to be a shared driveway with lot number, with the CA lot.
Okay.
And in order to go from, the concern has been raised that that should be CA also, the driveway itself only,
Okay.
be CA, so that you would be able to access that property.
And we're doing that because of the use of a CA would be more intense than an RM.
Correct. So there's no problem with going from a CA to a RM because it's a less intense use.
Right.
But there might be an issue in the future with going from an RM to a CA in terms of the ingress egress.
So you're just extending it, what, not the whole?
No, just to cover the driveway.
Right, okay. Yep.
Mr. Supervisor, I think it might be helpful if maybe you or Mr. Fiteski could perhaps review the types of things that could go in a CA district.
Sure. Yeah, Tim, would you mind just giving a quick overview of that?
No. CA would allow restaurants, it would allow retail, it would allow restaurants with drive-throughs. That's Randy's interpretation of the CA zone. Randy's jump in if you want. The only thing it really doesn't allow is service stations, convenience stores, those types of uses.
Tim, I have it in front of me if you want me to read it.
Please, I appreciate that.
Okay. A is hotels. B is any retail business or personal service carried on in closed buildings and such manufacturing which is incidental to the preparation of products to be sold on the premises to the ultimate consumer. Banks, including drive-through services, retail establishments with associated drive-through services, indoor theaters, restaurants serving patrons indoor. Such indoor restaurants may serve patrons outdoors upon the issuance of a special use permit, and outdoor sales on a small scale with a special use permit.
Thank you, Randy.
Any other questions? I'd like to make a motion to approve the zone change for this lot number 54581 Enders Road from RM to CA.
I'll second.
All right. I would like to make one historical wrap-up comment before we give the final vote. I thought it'd be helpful to many of you who are new to this area, this location. Again, this is just a look back at history on this area, where, as you all know, there was a corridor study that was put together in 2001. It was by many individuals, including concerned citizens. They were mainly concerned with the control of traffic and growth to avoid mirroring Erie Boulevard. In 2009, a big box price chopper was proposed to go into this location. It was not approved, and a lot of that was based upon the corridor study, along with Mailer's Landing residents' concerns that I already mentioned previously. You know, the town board and the planning board have been consistent with this area since 2001. 2009 was only 8 years after the corridor study came out, but now we're another 11 years away. So I guess times have changed. Residents who live in this area now seem to be okay with the possible traffic issues that might be caused by the zone change. Oh, nor I guess they don't care if it becomes somewhat like an Erie Boulevard. So I guess that's something that we'll see in the future. You know, there was a time when the medical center was considered a nightmare. A coalition formed to combat it. Now it's probably one of the best services provided to our community. So again, times change. So, you know, maybe we'll see the same thing that happens here when we change this to a CA. I just wanted to run that one past everybody. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, very good. We have changed that to a CA. Congratulations and Gonzalez.
Thanks, everyone.
John,
Thank you
before
for
you
coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone who
Thank
wrote it.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Just moving to my next stack here. Hold on. Okay, so we're going back in reverse now. And this will be for the part-time patrol officer at the Fayetteville Manlius School District. Before we get started, I would like to introduce a couple of individuals, as well as I believe one of our FM board members will also like to make a statement before we move on opening the public hearing. With us tonight is Superintendent Dr. Craig Tice at FM Schools. I think you're here, Craig. Oh, there you are. We have Marissa Mims, who's on the Board of Education. Marissa. And I think there's two other attendees, but I'm not sure who they are. Oh, here we are. Jason Catalino and Dan Seaberg. I don't see them here, but
Jason is participating as an attendee and can be promoted if needed. And Mr. Seidberg emailed me and will not be able to attend.
Very good. Okay. All right. So with that,
Also, I think for the note, isn't I think Marissa is the board president. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, Heather. Thank you.
sorry, Marissa, I knew that, but I didn't see it in my notes. You know, I get
No worries.
a teleprompter. You know, what can I tell you, right? So, so Marissa, I believe you would like to, representing the Board of Election, Board of, sorry,
You're giving me a different job now.
Board of Education, and as president, you'd like to make an opening statement before we open up the public hearing.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Supervisor Theobald, and thank you, town councilors, for this opportunity. In September of 2011, a Fayetteville Manlius Central School District Safety and Security Task Force composed of elected officials, board members, and parents, board members and community members convened to listen, discuss, review, and create options and recommendations to improve and enhance the safety and security of the school district. The task force recommended the 2012 implementation of a school information resource officer program at the Fayetteville Manlius Central School District. Over the past 8 years, officers from the Town of Manlius Department have become an essential part of our school community. Officers who work in our schools are carefully selected to ensure they meet the special challenges of working in schools. They must have knowledge of and sensitivity to the social, emotional, and intellectual development of students. Safety and security are a significant part of the work done by school resource officers. Equally important are the relationships they establish with our students and staff. Positive relationships between our officers and students are vital to the success of the program. Many of our students seek out the CIROs as informal counselors to discuss issues. Our CIROs build trust and foster relationships with our students through formal and informal interactions. The relationships these officers develop with teachers and students promote school safety. A recent school year's CIRO activity report shows that one of our CIROs averaged over 1,800 monthly contacts with students. During that time, this officer averaged over 20 monthly parent contacts, but only a single arrest on average per month. The vast majority of contacts are positive, supportive, and relationship building. Our CIROs teach safety classes, attend school events, and participate in numerous relationship building activities with students. These have included escorting students for after school ice cream, sledding with children on snow days, and playing basketball with parents. During the spring when schools were closed, our CIROs read books online to students and delighted them with special visitations from officers in an effort to make connections with the children and to reduce the insularity associated with the pandemic. A second safety and security task force met in 2019 to review the safety needs of our district. The task force, which included parents, teachers, community members, and students, recommended that Mott Road, the only building without a dedicated CSIRO, have an officer assigned to that campus. Parent interest in expanding the program and the overall safety needs of the district were key factors in the recommendation. We recognize that these are challenging times between law enforcement and many communities. Every school community does not enjoy the relationship that we have with the town of Manlius Police Department. Our community, however, has indicated strong support for the program because of the positive impact on students. We welcome the opportunity to hear more input from the community through this public hearing. Thank you, Supervisor Theobald.
Thank you, Marissa. That was important. Again, a little history of how this began in the Fayetteville Manlius School District. You saved me a lot of breath because I was going to talk about that. And when we first met with Dr. Corliss Kaiser back in the fall of 2012. And I did want to mention briefly that the resource officer, the CSIRO, actually began in the East Syracuse Manoa School District in 1994. One of the first in the county to have a true resource officer, not just a cop in a school. It was very important. And I remember I was on the board in Manoa at the time. They added in 2004 another resource officer, and that was mainly to cover Pine Grove Middle School. So the history is there, and I asked my daughter, who's 39, don't tell anybody, but she did remember the resource officer, but she said I didn't really get to know her well because I didn't ever get in trouble. So I thought that was good news. But anyway, my point is that many students, when these resource officers have retired, they have had going away parties for them. It's been just a tremendous relationship because it is about relationship with the students. So that is key, So I just wanted to add on to what you said, Marissa, which was, of course, well spoken and delivered. So what I'd like to do now is talk about the public hearing and what we will be discussing tonight. Because the public hearing really is to discuss the contract that Fayetteville Manlius School District has put together for the resource officer that they would like in their schools. And their choice of administration would be the town of Manlius Police to provide this service for them. They didn't have to go to us, they could go anybody else, and they could. They're going to have at least somebody in there, whether it's us or someone else, because that's what the board wants. That's what this committee did to put together. What we're here to talk about tonight is really the contract and whether or not we as a board feel that this contract will fulfill the services that the school district is asking us to provide. So I just, again, wanted to make that announcement. It's not about whether or not we're going to have a resource or a SPO. It's whether or not we're going to agree to the contract that we will be working with the FM school district as we are with the resource officer, with the CSIRO contract. They are different, which I know Mike could go into details, the chief could go, but there is a difference between the SPO and the resource officer. The SPO is part-time and only during the school hours. They are totally funded by the school. When school ends, these officers don't go out on the road with our police officers. Entirely separate. We're just administrating this program. So with that being said, I'd like to, I don't think we have any seeker here to talk about tonight, Tim. So we do need a motion to waive the reading of the public notice.
So I still have some questions. Should we do that now or after the?
We'll do that when we open up the public hearing. We'll address a lot of stuff. So that's how we'll do that. So I just need a motion for the waive the reading of the public notice.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Supervisor, to waive the public reading.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, now I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for the SPO contract.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried. All right, what I'd like to ask, and I think Allison, you and I have discussed the numerous emails that we received from everyone had different opinions. You know, so, some people who are not familiar with this were opposed to it. Others that were familiar with it were on board with it as far as the SPO. I didn't hear anyone talk about the contract, but that's something I know, Elaine, you and I, we've talked about the contract, which we can talk about that a little bit more after we come out of the public hearing with a couple of items that we wanted to address in the contract. So we can do it. I don't think we need to read all of the emails, do we? I mean, there are a ton of them. We can have some comments made, but we ask that, you know, like a public hearing, you introduce yourself, you have 3 to 5 minutes to speak, and if you have more to say over and above what you've already said, we want to give others time to speak, and then we would come back around to you so it's not an added on question. And the board, of course, is going to wait until we come out of the public hearing to address the comments. Okay, so Allison.
So we will note for the record that we did receive several emails regarding this topic, and those will be officially on file in my office. I haven't had a chance to reply to all of them just because we got several in the past few days, but they were forwarded on to the board. And then I will be replying soon to let everyone know just that we received them at the town and they are on file. So I will, it looks like we have one comment in the Q&A. It is from, and I hope I say this name right, Colleen Cadeau. Hello, there was a public post made about FM school district hiring additional officers made on a local parent page. I shared my comment then and I'll share it again here. There was overwhelming support of the school district and the Board of Education's decision. My children and countless others absolutely adore our school officers. Fayetteville Manlius School District and the Board of Education is absolutely making the right choice, adding more. The process was thorough and we fully support this decision. Officer Phillip at Enders and Officer Golden at the high school are amazing with the children for all the reasons Miss Mims shared and more. The positive relationships they make are ones that last a lifetime. My oldest graduated in 2009 and still seeks Officer Golden out. The district would greatly benefit from hiring more officers, so there is one at each school.
She mentioned it's not a question, it was just a comment, right?
Yes.
So that was a statement by her. Okay. Anything else you're seeing on Facebook or anything?
No.
Just looking at the Facebook feed, we do have 2 positive comments, to approve this from Facebook. The benefits of FM CSIROs are countless, and please approve the peace officers.
You're going to have to monitor that for the rest of the night because mine shows nothing. So who knows what's happening.
It's the new Facebook layout. It's
Yay!
You know, I don't like the new Facebook because it's changed, right? So, all right.
Let me just check. So we do have a question here. It's from ABL, and it says, so we will, if you could, ABL, just give me your name and where you live. At some point, you can just directly message me so I can note it for the record. They say, what about the contract length? Oh, Amy Blyer Long. Oh, hi, Amy. What about the contract length, 1 year or 2 years?
1 year.
Yeah, all right, 1 year. That's probably what we're gonna.
And that was a typographical error that the board caught. It should have been caught at our end. It should be only for 1 year, and then the board renews every year. So we will have to, I promised our Board of Education Monday night that we would bring your final contract back to them for approval.
Okay.
They approved the draft back on June 15th. 2020.
Thank you, Doctor. Anything else there, John, that's popping up?
Nothing right now, although while we're waiting for any further comments, did we ever reach a resolution about the confidential counseling aspect of the contract?
I was hoping that when we came out of the public hearing to talk about it, but if you want, we can discuss that. I looked at, I compared the CIRO contract with the SPO, and they do talk about counseling in that with reference to the when requested by the parent, student, so on, but there was nothing in the words confidential. So I don't think that's a problem removing that. Is that correct, Tim? Dr. Tyson?
No, no, not at all. In fact, I did the same exercise, Supervisor, and I think the language there indicates that the administrator or the parent permission is needed. So we can remove the word confidential and parallel it to what the CIRO contract looks like.
Thank you.
With the 1 year thing, just to throw it out there, I noticed it actually shows a month and year on the CIRO, but you just have this year 2020 to 2021. Is that valid enough? Is that good enough to keep it that way?
Yeah, that makes sense because later in the contract, it talks about when we start negotiating the new contract, and that's in May of 2021. So it's for the school year 2021, which would be this fall into next spring.
Oh, I see. So because the fact that it mentions May, we're good to go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we understand that there's a 1 year contract.
Yeah, I read that too. Okay. Oh, we have some more comments.
Yes, it looks like, all right. I submitted a comment. So Ellen wrote, I submitted a comment regarding this. And she asked why the Public Safety Advisory Committee is not being involved in this decision. This committee was mandated to be convened by Governor Cuomo. So why is this contract being entered into without the review and plan of the advisory committee first?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. So the Public Safety Advisory Committee has been convened just for the Governor Cuomo's executive order, and I don't believe it mentions this program. And this program is guided by the school district. This is the school district's initiative. So
very good. Thank you.
I just have Jason Catalino, who is also is a parent and a Board of Education member, has requested to speak. So if you're okay with that, I'll promote him to a panelist.
Sure, yeah. And again, he can introduce himself. You said it was he, I think you said. And,
okay.
Yeah, introduce himself and just, 3 to 5 minutes.
Jason, you can go ahead and unmute.
Hey, Allison, can you hear me?
Yep, yes. We can hear you. Go ahead. You can speak to the whole board.
Okay, great. And can you see my video or am I not on video?
You are not on video. But you can go ahead and proceed while I work on that. I don't know if I'll be able to fix that.
Okay. Well, I had a member of the an FM Mott Road student with me, who's my daughter.
Okay.
He wanted to address the board, but if you can't do it, no worries.
Yeah, let me see, Jason. Let me see if I can do this. Okay.
Yep.
Why don't you do this? I had originally sent you a link to join as a panelist. The board can continue on. If you want to go ahead, leave the meeting and then join with the first link I sent you, you'll just enter the meeting.
Okay, that'll take me a minute or two to do. So I'll be right back. Thanks.
So while we wait for Jason to reconnect, just some more Facebook comments that we have coming in. The officers present during arrival and / dismissal is a nice added safety feature to assist with monitoring people into out of the buildings, traffic walking safety. It would be beneficial to have enough officers to have this at each school consistently, especially this year when there will be more parent / guardian drop-offs. My children have enjoyed getting to know the officers and developing relationships with them. Some clarification around the confidential aspect, but we did say we were taking that out of the contract.
Thank you, John.
nothing else in the Q&A.
Chief, real quick while we're waiting, I just had a question. I know we talked about the different roles between the resource officer and the SPO. And you mentioned that the SPO will be reporting to the resource officer. Is that correct, or how would that be monitored?
Yes, in a way, because the school information resource officers are full-time police officers and have, you know, a lot of background experience with the schools and direct contact with the administrators. These new SPO positions, because they have somewhat of a limited capacity, would be working directly with and in concert with the school information resource officers.
Good. Thank you for clarifying that.
Another comment on Facebook, or question really, how many officers are you talking about adding? And I think it was 2 for this contract, but also the difference between the SIROs and the SPOs, which the SPOs are what we're adding with this contract. I think I talked to a lot of residents who had there was some obvious confusion around that. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job of clearing that up.
Yep. How are we doing, Allison?
Working on it. All right. All right, here we go. Ask to start video is now enabled.
Okay. It's like Hollywood Squares, I still say them.
There we go.
All right. Oh, a little bright there. Yeah. There, that's better.
Oh.
A little freeze frame going on.
All right, so she's not registered to vote yet, but she is a resident. Another town.
I'm not hearing anything. Are you guys?
No,
she's not
freezing.
registered to vote yet. Okay. How is it now?
Are you, Jason? Are you able
It's
to
improving.
closer to your internet? Get closer to your Wi-Fi back.
I was thinking that too, Kayla. He's outside, you know, and I'm wondering.
Yeah, when I'm outside, my computer doesn't work. My Wi-Fi doesn't go far at all.
Yeah, it depends on where the modem is, I believe. Now he's muted. Oh,
traveling.
Look at that. Okay. We just has to unmute and we're good. Yep, help him out there.
There we go.
Okay, so sorry about that.
That's what the kids are for.
Well, she's the one that's helping me with the technology. Come here, sweetie. So, Ed, this is my daughter, Vivian. Vivian, where do you go to school?
Mott Road.
You go to Mott Road. And we just wanted to know, Viv, would you be interested in having Officer Golden at your school or another police officer like him?
I would like to have Officer Golden at our school because he has long-lasting relationships with his students at school.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you, Viv.
All right, bye.
Bye. Yep, as kids do. But Ed, I just wanted to offer my support of the contract and just the program in general. You know, in light of everything that's going on right now across the country in recent days, anything we can do to help foster kids to develop positive relationships with law enforcement, fire department, et cetera, is great. And so I'm a big supporter of this program, and I hope that the board looks favorably on it and will approve the contract.
Thank you, Jason. And
thank you.
Thank Vivian too for making sure that you could get on and listen, watch, and make your presentation. So, all right.
All right. Thank you, and have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
I have another question in the Q&A from Amy. she said she did submit this in her letter that was forwarded to you guys. Could Dr. Tice or Chief Kroll provide examples of section 7.2, how the police department can enlist other law enforcement agencies? Provide specific hypothetical examples of where another agency would be called in, why and which agency?
Chief, you want to take that?
Well, I would love to take that, but I have no idea what what 7.2 or whatever that is. Dr. Tice, do you have any idea what that?
I have it, Chief. I'll read it to you.
In terms of my past previous life, working as a superintendent in another district, in the event of an emergency, we had one there. It was a multi-agency response and dealing with an emergency. In another case, you may have looked in the media prior to me moving over to FM in 2015, we dealt with an employee there who was accused of inappropriate relations with a student. So in that case, it was a multi-agency effort, not only with our CIRO in terms of being on site for protection, but also with the other agencies, as they are the ones that made the arrest and then escorted him to the appropriate barracks in Elbridge.
Very good. I hope that answered his question. Pretty clear. Tim, was there anything to add to that?
Chief, it looks like it's a shared services type, or not a shared services, when you enlist the assistance of other law enforcement agencies with appropriate jurisdiction and circumstance warrant under the agreement. So it is your, now the terms escapes me, but when you call in other agencies to help you.
Mutual aid?
Mutual aid. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, mutual aid is clearly identified through New York State General Municipal Law, and really it's a jurisdiction question because many times you'll have an offense that occurs in a jurisdiction that may be outside of the scope of the town of Manlius. And if that were the case, then we would share that responsibility of investigations with that appropriate agency with jurisdiction. And that's similar to what Dr. Tice said, where if we have an incident that is maybe reported at the school and we become aware of it, we would investigate completely as an organization. But if we identified that the offense occurred in outside jurisdiction, we would work under mutual aid agreement and in conjunction with those outside agencies that have appropriate jurisdiction.
And I know that many of the communications that we receive, the emails, really probably more referenced what the school was doing, not necessarily the contract between us. So we might still get some questions about that, which Dr. Tice, I know it's not a school board meeting, but I'm sure you'd be able to answer any of those questions if we do get some more of those.
Certainly, I'd be happy to.
I had a question. Because we received so many comments, could we share those with the school board? Yes, we could. Okay. I think that would be great.
Oh,
I can absolutely forward them on.
Thank you.
Oh, definitely. I think that'd be important.
Thank you.
We do have one last question from Amy. She had also submitted this in her initial question to everybody regarding a group of people that would be convened to evaluate the success of the program. Will you ensure that you are selecting a group that is a diverse mix of class, race, ages, etc.?
I guess that would be Dr. Tice.
Yes, we had promised in the task force that convened and made this recommendation back in 2019 that we would reconvene every year. And there's indicated in President Mims's commentary, it was made up of teachers, administrators. There was a school board member who was a representative, Mr. Seidberg, who was unable to be here this evening. There were students and in particular people of color, the students that had participated. So it was a very diverse task force. We didn't necessarily all agree at the time, but it was amazing to watch under SUNY Oswego professor Dr. Jacqueline Schilkraut, who also I know had helped Onondaga County with their task force, see the group reach consensus around those 4 areas. So our intent is to bring that committee back together every year, at least as an update, because overall our plan is multifaceted, as you're probably aware, and I will not bore you, but we did want to look at not just the CIRO and SPO, but the social emotional piece, the training and the drills, and then certainly facility upgrades as well. And it was very interesting to watch that group coalesce. We met through an entire year, typically once, sometimes twice a month. And we knew that we had to have short-term priorities, long-term goals. And so the intent was to continue meeting over the time as we chipped away at those long-term goals. Good question. Thank you.
Dr. Tice, I have a question. We did receive quite a few emails with many people supporting the expansion or the addition of new officers into this new role, growing the program overall, and then several people coming out against having police officers in the schools entirely, or saying alternatively that they felt that the school district already had enough officers and to add more, whether on a part-time basis or not, just felt like it wasn't necessary. But it's my understanding that we're really, as the town board, supposed to be evaluating the contract itself and not the merits of the program, which should be left to the school board. But as a parent in the district and as a resident in the village of Manlius, I wondered why, like I hear all these people talking about the roles that these officers are playing. Why do these people need to be police officers? Why do they have to have a gun? Why can't if it was remarked in the last meeting that it would be like having grandparents in the school because they're retired. Why can't we just pay grandparents to come into the school and hang out in the foyer and like be in the different buildings, to just be a person in the school to lend that support? Ms. Mims, the board president, you made several, like, I mean, as I said last time, I've heard nothing but great things about Officer Golden. But I just wonder if it's not Officer Golden, if it's not Damian Golden as an individual that's so powerful, to have him in the school, and that he would not have needed to be a police officer to have that impact. And the Janesville DeWitt School Board just voted today or yesterday to remove their one officer in their school, while Fayetteville Manlius is looking to continue to expand its program. And I'm just wondering why, and I'll preface this by saying this was brought to my attention in one of the letters that we received from a resident. A couple different community members brought this up. Why not direct this funding towards more guidance counselors or social workers or grandparents, if that's what the kids want? Why police officers specifically? It's all about the mental health. I hear that safety isn't really a concern. It's all of the benefits of having these individuals in the school has been the sense of community that it brings. I'm fully in support of that. That the officer, it was my understanding that their role is supposed to be for safety. So if it's for community building, why does it need to be a cop?
And can we do one thing here, Caitlin? I'd like to close the public hearing so that we can come out now, and as a board, we can discuss this amongst ourselves with Dr. Tice and Marissa Mims. Can we do that? And then we can answer that, because I'd like to. Go ahead, Al.
We have one more.
Of course we do.
I just wanted to make a comment on this initiative. I believe the addition of a resource officer from the Manlius Police Department, this is from Tony Waddell. I'm sorry, I should have said that. I wanted to make a comment on this initiative. I believe the addition of a resource officer from the Manlius Police Department will continue to be beneficial to our school district. The Manlius Police Department has a number of fine officers that represent their department Oh, something just happened with my screen. And our community well. Not to mention they add a level of safety and comfort during the times we live in. These individuals offer a service that normal individuals such as counselors and teachers cannot and are trained or equipped to handle. From Officer Golden to Officer Phillip, Les Bronze, and Officer Palmer, I have had numerous interactions with them, and each and every time it was a complete joy. I have seen the positive impact they have on our youth and the positive interactions children have with them. That alone is proof that this initiative is fostering long-lasting and positive community relations with our men and women in uniform. And where best to begin than with our children in making a positive future change.
And there's one more to follow it.
Kevin, you asked a question there.
Warren asked, what will these officers be paid? There has been nothing said about that.
Go ahead, Dr. Tice, if you want to.
Certainly. Thank you, Supervisor. Yes, the cost of an SPO is about half of what CIRO is running right now. So we are at 3 FTE full-time equivalents for the CIROs. In many ways, 2 SPOs would equal 1 full-time equivalent on the CIRO in terms of the compensation. We're planning to use retirees in this position, so it effectively reduces the cost. It's very similar, again, to the model that was used in my former life in another district in terms of tapping into retirees for the position.
Okay, thank you. So, again, we haven't really had much conversation about the contract. More or less, mainly it's been about the putting an officer SPO in place. So I'd really like to come out of the public hearing if we could, and then we can have further discussions between us, and Caitlin can get her questions answered probably between both the chief and Dr. Tice.
I'll make a motion to come out of public hearing.
Mr. Supervisor, does John Deere have any more Facebook notices or anything?
So we've just some comments, basically around more positive things to say about resource officers, questioning whether or not this was already approved by the school board, and mostly just positive comments about the program.
Okay, so I'll need a second. We're good.
I'll second, Sarah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Since Caitlin got the ball rolling, let's see if the chief and Dr. Tice can sort of wrap up the importance of having someone trained in this area, as opposed to someone like myself going in there as a grandfather, hanging out with everybody, and see what I can do to help out. I mean, I'm not sure how to answer that, so maybe you guys can.
Yeah, I'll go first if you don't mind. I'm sorry, Dr. Tice said. So first of all, you need to understand that our school information resource officer program, and now the SPO program, if we choose to do that, is a very unique program, much different than you see all throughout the country. We're the first town agency to have school information resource officers, and we recognize that the true benefit really was these relationship building opportunities between the students and these police officers. By contract, by agreement, by school rule, by board guidelines, the police officers, whether if they're a peace officer or police officer, they're not going to be involved in discipline matters unless it's a unique situation where safety and security of the students and the teachers are at risk. But most importantly is, yeah, I hear what you say about a grandfather in the school and why not have a grandfather in the school, but police officers, retired police officers or current police officers offer such a unique perspective on life. And they're able to actually talk about that perspective from how they saw it in their experiences, either as a current officer or as a retired officer. And that's the perspective that is most valuable when they develop these relationships and build these relationships with students, because they may be talking like a grandfather, but they're talking like a grandfather that was a cop for 20 years or whatever the case may be. And that really carries a lot of weight with the children that our officers interact with every single day. And that's not often a perspective that can be provided or offered by a grandfather or I'm not saying anything against our counselors. We have excellent counselors in the school, but it's a unique perspective that only can come from that class of individual. So I hope that answers that question, but and they can offer that perspective sort of in a like a real life level of experience that just can't be offered from other things. And that is just a relationship building piece. And really when the task force talked about adding additional police or peace officers to the school, it was mainly related on safety and security, which obviously is our number one role, but it just offers so much more of this program.
Will the officers have the authority to arrest a student if the situation required it? They would have that power.
Yes.
So I don't want to like beat around the bush, but what I want to make sure that I draw attention to, because I think it's important, is what we're facing in this country right now and the conversations that communities across the country are having surrounding policing. We've been having these conversations amongst ourselves as counselors, as members of our own community. And I think probably among the faces I'm looking at on the Zoom, we are coming from different perspectives and we have different opinions on this matter. I do truly believe that at the end of the day, we all have our community's best interest at heart. We all prioritize safety. We all, even the people that completely disagree with me, I still believe that they believe the same thing I do. We want our community to be safe. Just how we get there and our belief system in terms of what would achieve that, that's what's different. And we are seeing so many communities have conversations about over policing and about what the role of a police department should be in a community. And in the city of Syracuse, it is, there are students and parents and community members demanding that the cops leave that district entirely. They don't want any cops in the schools, and it's very divisive. And the responsibility that we all have as the town board, I think, and I appreciate Supervisor Theobald reminding me of this, is that it is our responsibility this evening is to evaluate the contract. We are not the school board, even if we're parents in the FM school district. So this evening I will be voting yes to approve this. But I want to make sure that we all are mindful of the trend that we're setting in the FM school district, that sometimes there are roles that are not appropriate for police officers. And that if we are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars as a community, my kids go to FM, I pay taxes, I pay school taxes. If my tax money is going to continue to add police officers year after year, to continue to expand this program, when it could be going to other initiatives to support students, I would be extremely opposed to that, because I don't think that that would provide a safer environment for my children, or for any of the children in the school district. And where we are as a country, it's just such an important conversation for us to have had. And I appreciate that all the input we heard from the community. This was a very difficult decision for me, because I have heard nothing but positive things about Officer Golden. And I think that he is an asset to the school. What I toil over is the role of police officers in the schools. And it's something that I think as a community, we need to continue having this conversation. We need to reevaluate this next year, truly, not just automatically sign off that, yeah, let's extend the contract. I would really be curious to hear from the FM community over the next year, what they really think about this. Is this really the direction we want to be heading as a community? Could these individuals that are so admired, do they need to be cops? Is that the most appropriate? I don't really have a way to wrap this up well. This was extremely difficult for me, and I appreciate all of your patience and for your answers to these questions, so that we could all come to a conclusion on this.
If I may say something.
I was going to say, go ahead, President
Sure.
Mims. I just wanted to say there's a huge difference between the city's program and our program. And I think Dr. Mims will, or Dr. Tyson, President Mims will address that.
I mean,
I think I have a pretty unique position. I am a teacher in the city of Syracuse, and I am a Black woman who has raised Black children in the Fayetteville Manlius Central School District. They have attended, they've graduated now, but they attended school from kindergarten through 12th grade. I have a Black son and a Black daughter, biracial, but they consider themselves to be African American. So having one foot in the city and one foot in FM, I think I have a little unique perspective on this. The city program, as the chief said, is very different. At the middle school level, there are school sentries, and at the high school level, there are police officers in the schools. There is a lot of community support for removing those police officers, but there's also a lot of support from teachers to have those officers in the high school. But I think our focus here has to be on what is best for FM. And in planning this program, I was on the board when we first looked at this issue, and we were very careful to listen to the opinions of parents, because some parents were saying similar things to Caitlin. Why do we have to have officers in the schools with guns? Well, there is a security component to this, but in order for the officers to be truly effective, they have to be able to build those relationships with the students. So it's a safety matter, and it's also the relationship building so that the students will come to them. They can investigate crimes. They can look into things a lot better because there's a trust. You know, we've talked a lot about Officer Golden, and you know, if you go into the high school during the school year, you're going to find a lot of Black boys in his office. Not for disciplinary reasons. They're there because they love Officer Golden. Officer Lesperance before. I can't think of anything negative to say about any of the officers. He was the first officer that we had. He used to go bike riding, dirtback riding with the kids. They all build relationships. Officer Phillip reading books to the kids. They have all worked at not only helping our district with that security piece, but the relationship piece as well. And as a Board of Education, we don't look at this program, the SPO or the CIRO program, separate from other supports for students. We recognize, and we have added mental health supports to our school. That's very important to our Board of Education and our school, that we support our students that way. So this isn't a silo issue from the psychologists, the guidance counselors, all of that. And our school resource officers are integrated into our community. These are not officers who are walking around with guns and just policing the schools and looking for crime. You know, in the report that I referenced earlier, there was like one arrest a month. But far more contact. And we have officers who do home visits, and it provides not only security, but in order to do that, you have to have relationships. And I am very much aware of what's going on in this country, and it saddens me and angers me to see some things that are happening in other communities. But as a Board of Education and as a board member, I have to look at FM and what our parents have consistently said to us and our students have consistently said to us. And I do want to hear from others who are not in favor of the program or who have issues. So I'm glad we'll get those comments, because we want to make sure that we address those issues as well. Thank you.
Marissa, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. My daughters are also Black. And so that's that's something I carry with me when I'm mindful of these things, because I know that it's very, very challenging to find teachers that are people of color or that are Black. And so I think that I wish we had more options, more opportunities for children of color in the schools to create relationships with a teacher of color. I think that Officer Golden, as a man of color, brings something really necessary to FM just because of who he is. I wish that there were more opportunities than that, and I hope that those opportunities continue to grow in the future. I know it's very challenging to recruit teachers from diverse backgrounds, but I do recognize too that the FM is so different from the city school district, and the nature of the policing in the city is very, very different. They have different needs and different problems, and it sounds like, I mean, all the kids. I had a young woman of color living with me last year in a foster program, And she just absolutely loved Officer Golden, and she trusted him more than probably anyone else in the school. So there are certainly benefits to it. And I think that what I'm learning, even as we go through this process, is that policing is not black and white at all. It's just, it exists totally in a gray area, and you can't ever categorically say you are pro-police or anti-police. I don't think that exists. I think we're all mindful and evaluating the nuance of this to help build a community that's really going to foster a sense of security and a sense of community for everybody.
And to your point, I think moving forward, it would be a great idea if, when there are issues that come in general, I know you're looking at a comprehensive town plan and there's a police committee, please involve the schools. I've listened in on some meetings and I know the answer to that. So please involve us, because we can help and we can bring whether it's a board member, whether it's Dr. Tice or a teacher or someone, can bring that perspective and share information with you about what's happening in our schools. Because, the town, I don't know, I was listening to the zoning presentation and I know those folks, socially a little bit, but I don't know, I'm not, I couldn't sit here and tell you about zoning issues, right? That education is where I am. So, I really hope, we reach out to our elected officials to come into the schools to hear about what we're doing, but we really need to do more of that. So please involve us in your discussions, as you plan things and look at issues that involve the school, so that we can help and we can explain to you a lot of the programs and things that we're doing in our community, so there is a better understanding. I'm sorry, Dr. Tice, I go long. You might probably want to say something.
Well, I'm sorry, just to answer Caitlin's questions, shortly after her election, she reached out to me. We had a chance to sit down in my office and talk through a lot of her hopes and aspirations and serving on the town board. And I was able to share, as President Mims indicated, the wonderful programs that are at FM. And to Caitlin's point, if all we were doing were CSIROs and SPOs, I would agree. I would be worried. There's not a quick fix solution here, but as you know, at FM, we're blessed in terms of having a balanced program, a very rich program that includes the mental health, social, emotional issues, the counseling support. We have a school psychologist in every building, plus the district psychologist. So there's 7 total, which is unheard of. So we definitely have, to her point, this is not a one-trick pony. This is not a quick fix. It's part of the balanced approach and having that safety and security piece. As you know, we did 2 safety audits just because they approach things at 2 different angles, but having the officers there who knew the buildings inside and out helped to take those recommendations to the next level. And so it definitely is a safety and security, and it is the relationships. As I kidded about my prior assignment, a wonderful district, when I arrived there, as I told Chief, it was a mixture of individuals looking for overtime from different departments throughout Central New York or Syracuse University security. And so we transformed the program there to have the officers, to build the relationships, to have the testimonials that you heard this evening, to the point in my son's senior class, they elected the CSIRO to be their keynote speaker. They could have picked any faculty member from the whole district, and they picked the CSIRO, which made it pretty special. So I think you've hit on all the salient points tonight, all very important points, but it is, as Marissa said, what's right for FM. We've heard it over and over again, but it's also part of that balanced program. So thank you to the town board and to everyone for having me here. If there are any follow-up questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tice. Marissa, great job as well. John, is it Catalino? I want to pronounce it right. And his daughter, I think it was Vivian. There was a really
Jason Catalino.
Catalino, okay. It was excellent to hear from everybody. And I would just like to ask real quick if we're going to make a motion to make sure that we include the changes that we talked about, unless that's already been in there, so that we can, close this particular here. Well, we already closed the hearing. So we just need to vote on the contract.
Yeah, just quickly say something before we, oh, I'm sorry, Elaine, you were about to speak.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I'll go after Elaine, thanks.
Go ahead, Heather.
Okay. Just wanted to say I really appreciated the fact that after I know Caitlin and some others really put out the word, and thanks again to our local newspaper for covering issues in our town. I really, really want to heighten the importance of local journalism these days. We were able to receive comments and get engagement, and I know that the school board also really is seeking that engagement in these issues, and it makes all the difference to have people pay attention and engage. So thank you to everyone. I also want to let President Mims know and Dr. Tice and everyone know that I personally am very interested in continuing to stay in closer touch and consult each other as we can, informally or formally as necessary. For example, I know when we did the solar exemption, we opted back into the solar exemption. I think that the school district still is not opted back into that. So we can talk about sort of our green goals between the district and the town. And honestly, I think that we are developing civic leaders, right? So the fact that we can get younger people like Jason's daughter to come and speak and understand what this whole process is a good thing too. I want to support the School of Education and the Town of Manlius's, or the Board of Education and the Town of Manlius Police Department's agreement and the work that they did and the committee that put it together, and I will be supporting this program. But I also think it's a good idea that it's a single-year contract so that all the conversations that are happening with the Public Advisory Committee and the larger conversation in our town continues to develop and we understand where we are and where we're trying to go as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Very good. So Elaine, were you going to make a motion? I know you were going to say something, or did you want to make a comment?
I think I'm all set. As long as the changes are made, I think we're all set. So I can.
Mr. Supervisor, I just like to thank everybody engaged with this for allowing us to put the other agenda item first that was expected to them. And I appreciate that we took an extra half hour out of your life. So thank you very much for hanging in for that.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Very good.
And Mr. Supervisor, I just want to say that I am familiar with the original Cyros program out in the other district, and it was extremely well received. And we have had a wonderful relationship here in the town with the Town of Manlius Police Department, with all of our schools for years. And I want to commend the Board of Education and Madam President of reaching out to the Town of Manlius. We know you could contract with any other organization, and I think it's so important that we have our own organization in our schools to see our kids every single day. And grandfathers are great, but when they want to go play golf for 3 months, they're going to go play golf for 3 months. So the consistency, I think that our officers and the friendships and the relationship is paramount. And, you know, I think this is of the utmost importance. And I certainly support it and would love to make the motion.
Okay.
That the town enter into contract for the intermunicipal agreement with the Fayetteville Manlius School District for 2 SPO officers. This would be a one-year contract.
Okay.
And we're going to amend that one phrase regarding the confidential chemical.
Yeah.
I would
Yes, with the amendment, Sarah. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Did you second it, Sarah? Did I hear?
With that, yeah.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Very good. Thank you, everyone. A lot of information. I thought it was very valuable tonight. And I really want to thank again Dr. Tice and President Mims and John and his daughter Vivian for giving us all of your knowledge of what you went through, which I'm familiar with a lot of it too. And of course the chief for your input and as well. So with that, you you guys can leave or you can hang on and watch.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Good night.
All right, so thank you, board. That was well done. And Allison and John, thanks for steering the comments and so on. So we'll move on to correspondence and new business. Rob, what do you have for us? Anything tonight?
Ed, actually, I do not have anything tonight other than the construction season's winding down here. So got a couple projects still left that we're working on here probably over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and we'll be going into that other phase. Unfortunately, we'll be putting equipment back on before you know it. So other than that, I'm good. The CHIPS funding, we did submit all of our paperwork for a refund. The second letter has come out, so hopefully, we'll get that reimbursement here with only the 20% the decrease that they had originally talked about. Hopefully they don't decrease it any more than that. But other than that, I'm good. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Rob. Randy, what do you have for us this evening?
Everything's going fine. I just have one thing that with the new gyms, all the gyms are opening up now with certain mandates.
Right.
The governor said that the AHJ, which is the authority having jurisdictions, is going to do inspections, and the gyms have 2 weeks to comply. However, no information was provided to any of the jurisdictions on what their responsibilities are. So I'm trying to find out what that is. And once we find out what that responsibility we hold, I'll forward it on to Dave, and Dave will do the appropriate inspections. Right now, we have zero information on it. However, we're responsible for it. I'm sure Mike Kroll can relate to that.
Oh, yeah, very good, Randy. Thank you. Tim, you have something for us this evening?
Have nothing.
Nothing. Thank you for helping in those last 2 public hearings. Very, very helpful. Allison, what do you have? You've done enough today, right? Okay, thank you. Chief, anything that you'd like to touch on tonight?
Yeah, just a few things. We've been really, really busy over the last couple of weeks. And I plan to bring to the board meeting the next time around some statistical information about where we're at with our numbers. Secondly, congratulations to Officer Brian Damon, who is a school information resource officer currently at FM, and he's announced his retirement, and his last day will be February, and we're going to have a little ceremony for him at the town hall on on the 28th, Friday the 28th at 2:30 at town hall, just to show our appreciation for a 20-year plus career with the town of Manlius Police Department. And then lastly, just briefly, I've had my second meeting now with the district attorney group on law enforcement reform for Onondaga County. We now have 5 chairs, co-chairs. The city of Syracuse has now jumped on board with our countywide group. And we're formulating plans on the Executive Order 203 from our governor, and we're going to be selecting individuals for subcommittees to discuss the various topics in the executive order, and then bring those back to our folks locally to just discuss further. And I'll have more information on that as we go forward. That's it. Thank you.
Very good. Very good, Chief. Ann, what do you have for us this evening? You're good. Nothing to talk about the budget. We're in the middle of all that. Keep smiling, Ann. Okay. All right, we'll go with the town board next. Sarah, why don't we start with you? I'll go alphabetically here. What do you have? Anything?
Thank you. Yes, I did want to share. I attended a focus forum event that included energy efficiency and environmental sustainability stuff, specifically around local government role. So that is available as a recording, I believe. It was a good presentation. I'm continuing to work on the Salt Springs Water District and the commercial zoning project. We're continuing to get input on the commercial zoning and hope to have a planning process committee meeting next week. And then Elaine and I met with the Manoa Fire Department and plan to meet with Fayetteville and Manlius to understand better how their budget fits into our budget before we get to that part of doing our budget. So.
Did you get Manlius's yet? Because Martha shot something over to me and I forgot to follow up and see if you got something from her.
We haven't met with them yet, but we're working on it. So maybe I can connect with you and Martha.
Yep, that'll be good. All right. Okay. And as far as the committee, I know the process committee, I keep forgetting the name of what we called it. You mentioned that hopefully we can have that ready maybe in September.
We're hoping, yes, we're hoping for second meeting in September to be able to hold a public hearing.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great if we could. I know you guys have been working hard on it. And I appreciate that. John, anything tonight?
Just doing a lot of stuff lately, keeping the lights on in a lot of places, I guess. The one thing I really did want to call out is we are very much looking at how we transition the board back, the various boards back into the boardroom. So anyone who's still watching now, if you haven't seen the most recent planning board meeting, and also today our budget workshop, as well as the budget workshop that'll be happening at 4 o'clock Wednesday of next week. We are trying it out to see what it's like with just a fairly cheap microphone on the camera. So looking for feedback, want to really know if this is something that we can plan that's working, that seems to be sufficient to Zoom. But other than that, that's all.
So the budget meeting today, we can go back and watch that just like we do everything else.
Yep, that's on Facebook. And if you go to the live broadcast tab on the website, it'll also be there, as well as the planning board meeting. Anything we do with the camera as opposed to Zoom automatically ends up on the website. And we're hoping that it is always on Facebook and even YouTube. So lots of ways to watch that.
Excellent. Thank you. Elaine?
Yeah, so I just have, so the Public Safety Advisory Committee will be having its first meeting tomorrow at 6:30. We'll be on Zoom and it will be live streamed as well. So you feel free to tune in. Our agenda is pretty light. We're just going to be introducing everybody and talking about what we're going to do. So join us tomorrow. Thanks.
Elaine, I've been meaning to ask, could you, I probably should have emailed you or called you. Could you send me a list of
Oh, yeah.
and maybe the agenda too, unless you've got to post it someplace.
We sent out, if you're signed, well, I'll send it to you, but we did send it out. We created that list on our website, the Public Safety Advisory Committee mailing list, I guess. And so we did send out a notice. So anybody who signed up for that did get a notice. They just got the notice that the meeting will be tomorrow, and then also the agenda. So we're going to keep trying to use that, but I will directly send it to you, Ed.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Caitlin, or I'm sorry, Karen, you're up next.
No, I'm good tonight. Thank you.
Now, Caitlin, what do you have?
So we have Sustainable Manlius is finally reconvening. I realized when I got to set the meeting that it's only our second meeting because everything got squashed back when it was scheduled in March. And with it being such a new committee, it was difficult to get organized and figure out exactly the best way to do it. And I kept thinking we should be able to meet in person soon, but that day is obviously not coming anytime soon. So we will be having monthly meetings going forward, starting on October 1st at 7. If folks are interested in participating in that. We're continuing to evaluate the options for the landfill project to add solar to that. Ed and I joined Tim this morning and John and had a really great discussion. So stay tuned. Hopefully we start to resolve that and move that project forward relatively soon. So environmental sustainability coming your way.
Yeah, that was a very good meeting this morning with Chris, thank you. And we got a lot more information from him regarding the agreement and so on. So just have a little bit more work to do.
Yeah, I feel like, especially with not being able to meet in person, so much gets lost in translation via email. So I was really appreciative that we got to iron all of that out this morning.
Well, we almost did, except for Melissa was up in Canada. She couldn't make it.
Yeah, we could have met in person. We were close.
Right.
I didn't have to get a babysitter, so it worked out fine.
Very good. Thank you, Caitlin. And Heather, what do you have for us this evening? Anything?
Yeah, I always have things. A preview. We are going to be setting a date soon for an informational meeting about drainage districts. And so keep an eye out for that, particularly if you live on your field. And there's some other areas too that we're going to discuss. So thank you to Doug for partnering with us on that, and Randy and Rob. Also, the tree commission is moving forward with some great plans, and we had a meeting with Rob, including Rob, to talk about sort of our budget for the coming year and our plans. And we actually had a member reach out to the Village of Manlius about a tree planting opportunity with a grant from the DEC. And the area we're looking at, we believe, is right at the Bank of America, where the old Bank of America is, at that triangle right there. So more to come if that comes to pass. Also, comprehensive planning, we are going to be finalizing dates for 3 listening sessions. And to tell you what these listening sessions are about, they are really for the comprehensive plan committee members to sort of get going and have a bit of a common frame of reference and common experiences, but they will be open to the public. So in September, we're going to have a conversation about the natural environment. In October, we're going to have a conversation about the history of Fayetteville, Manlius, and Manoa, featuring Barbara Rivette. And then in November, we're looking to partner with the Chamber of Commerce and discuss the built environment in commerce. So sort of some historical groundings, but also vision. So we're also going to be putting together we'll be surveying the committee members, and I wanted to highlight that it's a little different than the Public Safety Committee, which has a sort of a narrowed down group and had a selection process of sorts. We don't have an executive committee yet for the comprehensive plan. We're in the earlier stages and it's a longer process, but the Public Safety Advisory Committee has a report due by April, I think. And so they're moving at a different pace entirely. And our scope is pretty broad. So people who are wondering, am I on the comprehensive plan committee? If you've involved, if yourself raised your hand, yes. And are you on the executive committee? Well, that is TBD. Finally, I would say that I just wanted to acknowledge Women's Equality Day. And today is the day that we mark, and my dog wants to join in as well. We want to, I think it's National Dog Day, Appreciation Day or something too. So that gets lower billing today. This is the celebration of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which was not inclusive of all women, as we know, unfortunately, but was extremely important. And Barbara Rivette was was the first person to really write any sort of biography about Matilda Joslyn Gage, someone that we can really thank for helping to bring her, this champion of both abolition and suffrage, who's from our own community. So I want to recognize Barbara Rivette in her efforts. And also, let's talk about the future and how do we recognize and celebrate women's equality? Well, we take a look at our own processes and our own practices. We've never done a pay equity audit at the town of Manlius. And I think that that's an exercise that could be very, very useful for us because we value our teams. We value the people that work here. And we want to send a signal to the rest of the community and to the state and beyond that working here means that you can be assured that you'll always be valued and always have pay equity. So that's something I'm introducing and encouraging us to have a future conversation about and do an actual audit. So with that, I am done. I always have to lob a giant bit of information at everyone.
I lost track of all the bullets, but but that was good. That was a lot, Heather, but very informative. So I want to thank everyone tonight. I'm pretty sure that you'll all agree that I have already used up all of my time. So I don't have anything this evening, other than a motion to adjourn, I would ask.
So moved. Motion to adjourn.
Okay,
I'd second the motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, very good, everyone. Thanks.